Hey everybody, welcome to the first Mean Green Nation breakdown of the year. I'm excited, I've looked at the stats, I've analyzed the teams. It's time to break down some North Texas football. I hope everybody's excited. So in a little different format this year, we've chosen to take out all the stats. And what I did with the stats was I formulated an equation, and that equation would give me a rating, 0 to 100. And so I was able to rate all these teams based off of all those stats, so you can kind of see how the teams would match up based upon their rating. First of all, we're going to take a look at the North Texas offense versus the SMU defense. SMU's defense, they run a 4-2-5 attacking defense. Van Malone, their defensive coordinator, he likes to get after it. Last year against North Texas, he got after us early, but they only got 2 sacks in the game. It was their best game as a defense. They only gave, if you compare this last year's game to all their other games, they only gave up 88 more yards in their next closest game than the North Texas game. They gave up 46 points per game last year, nearly 46 points per game, I'm sorry. But they had a lot of underclassmen. They still have a lot of underclassmen. They have 10 underclassmen in the 2 deep. A lot of those guys played last year, so they got experience, so they're going to be better this year. I think the SMU defense will be better. For the North Texas offense, it should be extremely better. They're moving to the air raid offense. We're relevant in college football with their offense again. Seth Luttrell brings in a high-flying, tee it high, let it fly offense. They're moving. They've got Graham Harrell as their offensive coordinator. A lot of North Texas fans already know who that is, ex-quarterback for Texas Tech under Mike Leach. First-time play caller, though. So in his first game, how's he going to be able to handle the adjustments that he may have to make at halftime, the in-game adjustments on the fly? How does his play call sheet look?
Now, let's analyze what's been working for us. Not a goddamn thing's been working for us.
First up, we're breaking down the North Texas pass offense versus the SMU pass defense. For SMU on their pass defense, Justin Lawler, he had 5 sacks last year, probably their best pass rusher overall. As a team, they only had 16 sacks, though. That ranked 114th in the nation. They were 127th in the nation in yards per completion. They were given almost 16 yards per completion. That's pretty bad. Football Outsiders had their defensive line ranked 121st. That's not good, but they're going to be better this year. I think they have more depth, and I think they have more talent. Their DB Havoc rating. How did they make tackles for losses? Did they get interceptions? That advanced stat rating was ranked 119th. There's only 127 teams in college football. So their DBs weren't very good last year. They do have a lot of underclassmen in that area. They have 6 of them, and they're 2 deep listed this year. But I think there's a lot of good talent for them. Horace Richardson, probably their best pass cover guy. Now for the North Texas pass offense, it's the most important part of this offense, I believe. When you look at this, Alec Morris, transfer from Alabama, his first meaningful game. How does he handle it? Yes, he faced a lot of good defenses at Alabama in practice, but this is game. How does he handle the game situations? I think he will make good decisions if the offensive line protects him. But our offensive line was ranked 116th last year. They weren't very good at all. Some people like Adam choose to believe that it was a product of the play calling and the quarterback. That could be. But when you look at the offensive line this year, there's not a lot of depth and there's not a lot of returning starters. Creighton Barr starting at center, he started a few games last year. Sam Rice, more notable, probably the best overall offensive lineman starting at left guard. He played well last year. And then you get the long, lean Jordan Murray, the 6'9" left tackle. He's going to be very important to this offense, protecting Alec Morris's blind side. The other 2 guys are newcomers. Trey Henson, probably the best pass blocker on the offensive line. Garrett Gunter, the right guard. Concerned about his ability, but I think I'm gonna wait and see how he does this first game before I criticize him too much. And again, the depth on the offensive line, not there. Moving on from the offensive line, you talk about the wide receivers. Terry and Goree, probably the biggest home run threat out of all the wide receivers. but they're going to play 7 to 8 guys. Look for Rutherford. He had a great fall camp. Busey attacking him down the field. He was another guy that had a great fall camp. Kenny Byers, Kelvin Smith. I think SMU will struggle to match up with a guy like Kelvin Smith. They have a lot of shorter guys, a lot of smaller guys, and Kelvin Smith, Akiri, and Rutherford, 2 big guys that can take advantage of it. Even Thaddeus Thomas wasn't targeted a lot in fall, but I think we're going to see him get more targets once we start playing games. And also, if SMU's going to pressure us as much as I think they are, look out for the running backs in the screen game. I think that it's an extension of the run game, but I think there could be some big plays in the pass game from the screen game from our running backs. Right now, I've got North Texas getting 267 yards passing on this SMU defense. And I have SMU at least coming up with 2 sacks in this game. Getting into the North Texas run offense versus the SMU run defense. The North Texas run offense is probably the most concerning part of their overall entire offense. And again, that goes back to the offensive line, not the running backs. The running backs that they have, they're explosive. We know a lot about Jeffrey Wilson. We know he's probably going to get the bulk of the carries, but there's other guys that are going to see action. White, Ivory, Nick Smith, Tucker, all those guys are deserving of carries, so watch out for them. It'll be interesting to see how the run game is set up from the pass game. If North Texas is hitting big plays in the pass game, they should be able to have their run game open up. I see North Texas getting at least 8 explosive plays from their run game against SMU, and that means at least 10 yards down the field on a carry. The last year, SMU held North Texas to only 112 yards of rushing. That was SMU's best output as a run defense. Of course, there was no threat to throw the ball down the field from McNulty or any of the quarterbacks, so that helped out. It's hard to tell exactly how much the SMU run defense will improve this year, but I think they will be improved. A guy to look out for them is Anthony Rohn. He had 3 tackles last year against North Texas. He's their starting middle linebacker, and he should have a pretty big game against us this year. Right now, I only have North Texas coming up with 150 yards rushing in this game. The North Texas defense versus the SMU offense. Here's where things get tricky. Here's where you're not quite sure what the North Texas defense has. I know fans are going to see that 59 rating overall and they think, Greg, you're crazy. Well, yes, I am crazy. But they do. They have a new defense. They're going to the 3-3-5 defense. It's going to be an attacking defense. The architect of the defense is Troy Reffert. Their defensive coordinator, Mike Eckert, he is probably not going to be as aggressive as Troy wants him to be, but they're still going to be aggressive. It can't be much worse than it was last year, can it? No, it can't. For SMU, their offense is a spread, power-running offense. They'll do lots of pulling guards. They're going to run east. They're going to run west. They're going to run up the middle, north. They're going to attack really every part of the field. Their pass game is looking to be more of an explosive pass game, more down the field. But they do have some guys that can catch it and take those short passes. A guy like James Proch, a redshirt freshman wide receiver for SMU that can really do some damage. I believe he's a really talented player. For the SMU pass offense, I think they're going to be improved this year. I don't think Matt Davis is going to make a huge improvement, but I think the improvement's going to be there. Twice last year he completed 70% of his passes. Those were the 2 games he won, that SMU won. I don't think that they're going to hit on all their big passes. I don't think they're going to get 70% completion in this game. Sutton, Cortland Sutton, everybody knows about him. Blitnikoff award winner candidate. He didn't have a huge game against North Texas last year, 65 yards, but he's a big player that can go up and get it. That's a tough matchup for North Texas. Jeremiah Gaines, the player that I highlighted there, under the radar tight end, has all the tools, only had 1 catch in the game last year, but I think he could have a good game against North Texas. I think the biggest problem for SMU's pass offense is much like North Texas. Can they protect Matt Davis? They lost their starting left tackle for the year. I think that could be an issue. When you talk about the North Texas pass defense attacking them, the North Texas pass defense is probably, you talk about their secondary, is probably the best overall unit of the team. Their defensive line, not sure how good they are as a pass rushing group. Roberts, Combs, Roderick Young, Tillman Johnson, those are guys that can get after the passer that I believe. Joshua Wheeler had a great fall camp. had a good spring. He's definitely a guy off the edge that I think SMU is going to have trouble with. I didn't talk about it in the last image, the last slide, but I do believe that SMU is going to get at least 223 rushing yards, and for their pass yards, I have them getting 201 yards passing. For the North Texas run defense versus the SMU run offense, boy, the North Texas run defense, it really struggled to make any plays at all last year. They only had 65 tackles for losses. We gave up tons of yards, but the new scheme should help our undersized defense really make plays against the run. We may be too aggressive at times with all the movement and everything that SMU is going to do. We may be too aggressive and we may get hit with a burn play. We may get hit with a play action down the field, or we may get hit with a misdirection play that causes, that gives up a big play basically because we're being too aggressive. Finney didn't play much last year against SMU, but I think he's in store for a big game this year. On the other side of the ball, Matt Davis, he accounted for 55% of all their explosive run plays last year. Definitely, we know what he did to us in the fourth quarter. We know the scrambling ability, but they're more than Matt Davis. They have Xavier Jones. He was only a freshman last year. He's definitely a guy. He had 96 yards in the game against us last year. He's definitely a guy to look out for. Braden West, another guy in the run offense to look out for. I think this is where the game's going to be won or lost, is if the North Texas defensive line and their linebackers and their secondary is able to contain Matt Davis and make a lot of plays against that SMU run offense. Overall, last year, these were two bad teams. We saw it. We know that SMU, they're on the rise. It's really tough to gauge who has the better team overall. It's not as tilted as some think. SMU does probably have the better depth overall. They probably have the better team, but they're going into Denton. Overall, I rated them as a 67, North Texas as a 60. But that doesn't mean that I don't believe that North Texas can't win this game. For North Texas, I think there are three keys to the game. Start fast. The crowd is really going to be in their favor. There's a lot of hype to this game, so I think starting fast is important. Getting big plays off right off the get-go. Protecting Alec Morris, we've already mentioned. If he gets good protection, he will find the open man. And third, contain Matt Davis. Don't let him get wide open plays down the field. Don't let him scramble on third down. Don't let his legs beat you. For SMU, establish a running threat other than Davis so that North Texas can't key on him. Force Morris into bad decisions. Get pressure on Alex Morris. If you force him to not to make quick decisions, but to make hard, tough decisions under pressure, that's going to affect his ability to make good passes. And finally, big play, Cortland Sutton. Get the ball to Cortland Sutton down the field against this defense. Prediction time. I've got North Texas winning this game 37-33. I think it's too much for SMU to come into this crowd and to win on the road. They have to learn how to win tough games. SMU is going to be a better team than they were last year. But this game for North Texas, their pass offense setting up against a really weak pass defense for SMU, I think bodes well. I think North Texas is able to get whatever they want, really passing the ball. Okay, maybe not whatever they want, but they're going to get large chunks of yards. They're going to make lots of plays down the field. The crowd is really going to be in North Texas's favor. Again, the hype going into this game, the fact that SMU doesn't play well in Denton. They haven't won the last 2 times. I believe the last 3 times they've played there. So, and actually the home team has won the last 7 games in this series. North Texas is 7-3 in their last 10 home openers. So I think North Texas comes out on top with a victory, 37-33.